Welcome to Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotroStream. I'm Lotro's community manager, Cordovan, and I'll be with you for the next hour, hanging out, having some fun, doing some Q&A. We'll have some news. There is a little bit of news that we can get in, but it's not going to be nearly as momentous a show as the past couple of weeks, where we had developers on getting crunchy on class work, PvMP work. We had Severlin on following the release of the producer's letter. We've had Orion on as well, doing general Q&A. Just a lot of stuff happening in recent weeks. This week's show is going to be a little more news and gaming. I think I'm going to run a little bit of skirmishes, maybe the new Doom, or not new exactly, but new to Ill Omens, Doom of Kara Skelebron. And then we'll probably continue just the epic story a little bit as well on Crick Hollow. So should be a pretty chill day today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you're having a good one. Real quick while I do this, it's going to be a little awkward, but I want to hear my own voice. I'll make sure I'm coming through okay. Using my phone as a second source. Alright, well, I'm hearing myself. Seems like it's alright. So, hope the day is going okay for everyone. Welcome to Court of the Rings. So this is a new image of one of the new rewards from the Ill Omen Skirmish event. New cloak, and just a new image generated for the event this year, so that's pretty cool. But I also wanted to call your attention to a few bits of news before we get going too much here today. First off, if you have not had a chance to see the Lotro Producer's letter, please do so, because we've got a lot of information in and about the year ahead, including a nice roadmap graphic. So it's a good way to get caught up and hopefully a little excited about what we've got in store here for 2023. I did also want to call out that this is a bit of an event weekend, right? Because we've got the Ill Omens Skirmish event. Let me try to highlight that better for stream. There we go. Right there, Ill Omen Skirmish event kicked off yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it runs through the 27th of February. It's formally shut off at 3 a.m. Eastern. That's when our world event system does things like that on the 28th. So through February 27th on the Ill Omen Skirmish event. But you'll also notice that this weekend is a Hobnanigans weekend for anyone out there who is into running Hobnanigans. That kicked off yesterday as well and runs through Sunday, being shut off Monday at 3 a.m. Eastern. And then let me call out finally that next week, right? Next week we've got the Curator coming back. And that'll be at 10 o'clock Eastern on February 9th, and that'll run through February 15th. Up beyond that, we do have a Virtue tier increase. The LI Reward Track Season 5 is going to hit. There'll be an eye level increase from 480 to 485 associated with that as well. And then a little bit later on in the month, the Sark Vorn leading the charge deed will end. That's on February 16th at 3 a.m. Eastern. So you can find the full public event schedule over on Lotro.com. But we've got a particularly busy period with Ill Omens going on, Curator showing up next week, Hobnanigans also happening over the weekend. And then finally, I did want to mention that we did have a game release this week. This was update 34.2. Mostly to bring in the new Ill Omens rewards was probably the biggest reason why we, in fact, had a patch this week. But there's some class work in there as well. Some work related to Ill Omens. The tokens are now bound to account. It does now include Doom of Kara Skelebron. In addition, an Ill Omen's quest for Doom of Kara Skelebron's been added to the Skirmish Assault Strongholds of the Free Peoples. We have 2 new cosmetic pets, and actually I'll put up a screenshot of that in just a second, available to barter from Netta Pinleaf. Netta has conspicuous portent items for level 136 to 140 characters, and then the wrapper quest for Ill Omens is granting a Tracery token, legendary package, in addition to its previous rewards. I would mention, related to delvings this week as well, random crafting boxes have been replaced with crafting picker boxes in tier 7 and up delvings. We've done a little bit of work on some of the delving malices and a couple of little bugs there as well. We're increasing the chest's drop rate for tiers 4 and 5 of Sarkvorn, the Black Grave, to twice per week, up from once per week. And, yeah, a few other little things as well. And then, just a reminder then, yeah, the 5th season of the LI Reward Track starts February 15th. So, there's 2 bits to that. Not only is it something to get excited about because the new LI Reward Track should be pretty sweet, but also make sure that you've claimed your rewards. Claim your rewards for Season 4. If you've been ignoring your LI Reward Track in recent weeks and haven't been checking it, maybe you want to check that sometime on around February 13th, 14th. That would be my recommendation. But that's what we've got going on for news, really, that I'm aware of. Let me quick pop up the new pets. I should be able to do that just manually here. Here we go. So these are the 2 new pets that we've got going on in this year's Ill Omens skirmish event rewards. The portents are also super hype. I know people are both excited and also finding it a little controversial in some aspects, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit during the show here today if people want. But let me bring up the game music just a little bit, and let's get going in game here. So there we are. While I do that, let me take a look at chat. You see no mention of UI related to the roadmap. Sorry if you missed this. Is there anything you can let us know about actual UI improvements planned for and when? I do think that we'll see some work related to UI on the Lotro side in 2023, but I think that some of that work will... The resources that would have been used for that work are going to be used on some other things. And I know, for example, we have a new launcher that we're working on. There's obviously a whole bunch of UI work happening currently related to that. And we've got some other kind of systems in place that we're doing that I think is going to overlap our ability to do a general UI overhaul on Lotro in 2023. But I do think that there will be some work this year, and if it's not in the roadmap, it's only because it isn't scoped enough that it would fit into a bullet point necessarily. But I would expect to see some work in that regard in 2023. Yes, great. Thank you for reminding me, Conwick. Let me get to that little bit of information as well. We do have some things happening in this next week, up to and including seeing some of these class changes on Bullroarer, some of the Captain and Warden changes that you saw last week. Next week, we're planning to do our first Bullroarer deployment for Update 35. Stay tuned. I hope I didn't jinx it. Fingers crossed. If everything goes well, we're planning to do our first Bullroarer for Update 35 next week. That would most likely be on Tuesday, probably opening up in the afternoon. We'll have more information on the timing and such on the Bullroarer forums, of the Lotro forums, when we get closer to it. We also do have additional Bullroarers scheduled, at least 2 or 3 additional ones beyond that. We'll either do 3 or 4 Bullroarers for Update 35, depending on how things go. And there is a little break in between that, but I believe that we have one set, our first set for this upcoming week, and our second set for the week following. So we'll see where we end up exactly on everything, but that's the intention right now in terms of our Update 35 Bullroarer preview schedule. Also, we just mentioned next week we have what's looking, at least on this Friday, to be a very small patch set for next Wednesday, and that would be February 8th. 34.2.1. At the moment, I don't really have much for release notes for it, just some localization fixes, and I think we're going to have a few other bug fixes in there as well. Should be a pretty small patch, though, and that is set for Wednesday of this week. Let me get back to my Twitch chat. Where did you go? All right. Let me scroll up a little bit so I don't miss people who spoke earlier. And that 65-inch flat TV looks nice behind me. It is. It is. Well, see, it's actually not 65 inches wide, though, because they needed to use some of that 65 inches to go the other direction. So if you do a circumference of it, it's probably about 65 inches, but, you know. Is the curator ever getting new things? That would be cool. I have not heard of any plans to do that. I would expect, though, that it's certainly someplace that we're looking at when we look for cool new stuff. Although I think that there are other systems that we've been putting new stuff into instead. Why are we calling reward track reset as numbers and not as seasons? Winter, spring, summer, autumn. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Especially when we debuted this, although, like I said, we're getting to season 5 now, so maybe it's less relevant these days. But I don't think we wanted to necessarily tie ourselves to a seasonal calendar right away. We wanted to leave open the option that it could run more frequently or less frequently based on consumption patterns by the players, right? By the folks who are using it. How quickly are you going through everything? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the pace of it, et cetera, et cetera? So I think we wanted to leave open the possibility of doing that. Also, we're a worldwide game. So what's summer for us is not summer in other places, right? And so it just, I think overall it made sense to go numerically with it rather than seasonally with it, even if in the long run we've ended up largely being seasonal with it. Why are the items bound to character? The new portents that I guess I can get to in just a second. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to go speak to Netta here. I need to put back up my UI. Let's get to these portents. They're later. Here we go. They're bound. Some of the new portents were maybe they're on the bottom of the first page here, huh? They're bound to character rather than bound to account, and that's somewhat controversial this year. All I can say about that is it is working as intended. I know that some folks would prefer they be bound to account so that they could get them once and then just pass them around all their characters, but we believe the power level of the item is such that we would prefer it be bound to character. I also think maybe there's a question of how much expectation there really is that people get a full kit of these on all their characters. The other thing is, worth keeping in mind, it has a 10-minute cooldown, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So, okay. But they are pretty powerful. And they're definitely desirable this year, so that's good. If we need to change it in the future, perhaps we will, but we feel pretty strongly that the binding of it is what we want it to be. And the need may be very high. The desire on the community to have this stuff and not have to get it on all their characters may be high, but nonetheless, that's the story on that one there. A quick mention on Ill Omens skirmish event as well. If you want to know what the skirmishes are for the day, speak to Netta Pinleaf. It's not all of these skirmish camps. It would be nice if we could do that someday, but at the moment, it's Southbury, Ostgalad, and the 21st Hall in Moria. I would go to Southbury. That's where I've been going. That's where I think most people have been going. It's pretty easy to get to the one right by Southbury here, and this will get you the list of what the daily skirmishes are, and then Control J, bring up your skirmishes, and you can run said skirmishes to get the harbingers and get the stuff that you want. And while we're here on this character, let's run Doom of Karis Gelibrin. I don't think I've run that on stream. And while I do that, let me keep going through some more questions from Twitch chat. Hopefully you can hear the game and it's not too overpowering compared to my voice. Let me know. There we are. Incoming! Alright, so I got to the UI question. Let me see. Talked about Bullroarer for Captain and Warden. Thank you. Alright. Will we see the return of transfers from old closed servers this year? Unknown. Unclear. Unclear. Sev had talked about it on the Q&A, and the word is basically that other priorities have had to take precedent. So we'll see. We'll see if we can do it. I know that it's been one of the things that for people who do have characters on the legacy game worlds, and we gave lots of time to get them off, but if you weren't able to do that then, you want another opportunity to take your characters off of it. But the issue is ultimately the servers are now on a different architecture that is not compatible with the current game. So there's going to have to be some work done to make it compatible before we could offer transfers from them. And it isn't clear when that work might be able to get done, but we know it can't be done right now because of other work that has to take a priority. And that's really the most I can say about it. And as such, it would be unwise to want to give an ETA as to when we may have more news related to it. Yes, I think there's a wide understanding of the kind of work that could be done in a UI update. Beyond, I had mentioned that we were doing some launcher work and that was some UI work. And that's not to say that that work is more important than the in-game UI work that could be done. The intention is more that, well, that work has to be done right now anyway. So that's why that work is being done now as opposed to at a different time. There is sort of a series of things that have to happen before we can really bring two-factor authentication to the game. And that is something that we have talked about fairly regularly as something that we want to do. And it's another one of those projects that we haven't really been able to give a very concrete timeline on. But it is something that work is being done against. And part of that is updating the game launcher. Part of that is there's some kind of store infrastructure related work that needs to take place as well. And then finally we need to do the work to integrate two-factor authentication into it. And it's all part of a wider project that is happening. It is underway. Things are being done. It's just that the timing on all these things is being juggled against other priorities simultaneously. And at the moment it's a little difficult to give you a more concrete timeline on any of it, really. I think you're right. Like map markers would be another thing that we would love to do. I don't know your answer, Grounded Eagle, specifically about Sark Vorn locks. I mean, it is intended in that that's what it is, and that's how the person who made that piece of content designed it. So, yes, one favored chest and one common chest is the way it was set up. It's certainly a suggestion that we could adjust that in the future to two favored chests, but I believe that it was indeed set up correctly, or it was intended to be one favored, one regular. I think not awarding Virtue XP from the lower level Cardalon Swanfleet deeds is another essentially decision point that was made that, people would have other opinions about. But I think that was done in part because we want to be careful how easy it is to farm Virtue XP from deeds. I think in part. Ultimately, though, someone had mentioned on the forums this week that we will probably have to take another look at these portents in terms of where they could be made available and to respond to your concerns over acquisition rate and desire for them and things like that. So, I don't think we're going to see any changes this Ill Omen skirmish event, but perhaps in future skirmish events or future pieces of content, we can make sure that we try to give you other opportunity to get this sort of thing. I have not heard of any plans to bring back the Banner of Gil-galad. I would be very curious, though. I think in general, the kind of feedback of this was something that was in an old reward track that we can't get anymore and we want back would be a cool way to... cool feedback to know and categorize and make sure we've got down. So perhaps we can do that in the future. Someone is asking about response time related to customer support tickets. I know because I was looking at some of the work that was being done this past week, I know that they have gone through a ton of tickets this week, as a matter of fact. They went through, they outpaced themselves in terms of making headway on their ticket queue. So I do know that a lot of tickets were, in fact, actually done this past week. But I'm sorry if you were experiencing a slowdown in your particular issue. Hopefully we can get that resolved sooner rather than later. Sometimes you have to make balance decisions on acquisition rate of items that might be a little unpopular, but you're doing it anyway. Because it's important. Because it's the right thing to do. Where am I supposed to be going? Oops. I'm not. Am I still waiting out here? I think I actually missed a bit of the story while I was doing other things. I'm supposed to go elsewhere, aren't I? I was looking at chat and not where I'm supposed to be. I think I'm supposed to be elsewhere, right? Yeah. Let's pick up the pace a little. Oh, yeah. Down this way. Someone's saying portents will be obsolete with the next expansion anyway. For some of the lower DPS classes, attempt to fix the damage until the pass is made. Someone is suggesting that we use the LI system to help balance damage output before we're able to get to the class work done in 2023. That seems possible, I reckon. We could go that route. I think the hope is that we will get this work done, quickly enough that it will not need, we would not need to do that work. Alright, this doesn't feel right either. I can put a pin in that one, Aaron. I'll get back to it later. Let me see what people have here. Yeah, so Martin's got you covered in chat. It's a completely different infrastructure that was made for the old Codemaster servers. It doesn't apply these days. Liren, the answer to your question should be next week, when you will be able to test some of the upcoming changes on classes on Bullroarer. Are more supporter packs planned? Yes. Oops. Oh. I screwed up the instance. That's what I get for looking at Twitch chat and not paying attention to where I'm supposed to be. Aw. Didn't feel right to me. Alright. Well, I think we'll move on to other content anyway. You saw what was there. And you can actually run it correctly. I think it is intentional, Grounded Eagle, that we want you to run the skirmish introduction and tutorial, and thus do not grant it as part of the Valar process. I'm looking at chat, trying to see what I should answer. Nothing new about the crafting changes. We had said that we'll be doing some kind of diary, long post about it in the near future as we get closer to it. All right, there we go. You're right that the Valar process is another thing that would be neat to be able to spend more time messing with. I'm going to switch servers here. That's why I'm swapping screens. What's the new class? Well, I can't say that. Sorry. Yes, pick an offensive skirmish. Well, I just got screwed up as to which gate I was supposed to be at, and then apparently the Myrdian soldiers tried to pick up the slack, but then didn't do very well. So unfortunately, I bombed that. It's a bummer. I wish I hadn't done that, but there we are. So I think Sev gave enough of a new class hint that anything further would probably just be the equivalent of telling you what the new class is. And I don't want to do that. So I can't. I can mention a little bit that we are working on the other game side on a presentation for PAX East. Some devs from the other game side are going to be presenting at PAX East this year. Yeah, I'm going to be there too, I think. But the intention is that same day we're going to have an SSG community meetup around PAX East. It'll be similar to meetups that we used to do pre-COVID, and it should be a pretty good time. We even have someone involved to help organize it. We're getting a little help on the Daybreak side to help get, spaces rented and all that sort of thing. So there should be some news in the coming weeks about the day, the time, the place. Probably the day first, the day and time first, and then the place later. But we'll see how things go in the coming weeks. But you might want to set aside, if you're in the Boston area or able to drive a couple hours or whatever you feel is comfortable to get to the Boston area for a meetup some evening. It'll be either that Thursday, Friday, or Saturday evening. Could be that Thursday evening, which I know is not going to work for everybody, but it's going to be whatever day the panel is. And so that's because that makes sense as well, right? We don't want people showing up to see us at the panel and then not be able to do the community meetup because they didn't get a 2-day badge or something like that. So we're going to have it on the day of the panel. And as soon as we know what day that is, we're going to share it with you. But it's mostly about the other game side in terms of the PAX East stuff. But our community meetups, as everyone knows, are open to everybody. And we're going to have some Lotra swag as well for that meetup. So I should have more information that I can share with you in the coming weeks about that. But that should be pretty exciting. And want to make sure that we get the word out about that. Will the beta have the new Angmar instances? On this Friday, I don't know what the content plans are for the first Bullroarer. QA knows. They're the ones working on it, but I don't yet myself. I think it depends what gets done over the weekend and what the build's looking like and all that sort of thing. But we're going to have stuff for Update 35 in next week's Bullroarer, and we'll have notes and more associated with that when the time comes. What community events? Missed the announcement. We're going to have a player meetup during the Penny Arcade Expo East, PAX East, which is happening this year in a couple of months. It's in March. And we'll be doing a meetup related to that. All right. Let me swap back to the game. There we are. We have got Hurgler, who has been kind of ignored in recent weeks. Because his controller was off doing interviews. But we are currently working our way through the Epic book series, and we're getting to some pretty exciting stuff in it. So I wanted to... we're going to the southeast entrance of the town of Herne along the road northeast of Tharbad. So that's just coming up this way. Yeah. We did have one in August in Cologne, Germany. It was a fantastic time. It was my first time outside of the United States. My first time able to actually use a passport for things other than like a secondary form of identification at the RMV or something. And it was an amazing time. And yes, we're doing another one for PAX East. Should be pretty similar, although maybe a little more formally organized. Because I think we are going to actually rent out a space, as it were. Yeah, I don't want people to get their hopes up about something that isn't going to happen. So, but I don't really know the context in which other people answered that question. What class is next? So I kind of don't feel comfortable commenting about it. When I think about what our next class is, I mean, we're talking about something for the... Well, I'm just not going to answer it. I can't. Hopefully soon, once I get a little more clarity as to what Orion was thinking on his answer. I don't see it as a monster play class. I'm not sure how it... But... What? Okay, no. I think the answer is no. But I'm not quite sure why it was answered the way it was. I'm not sus. You're sus. Hey. I mean, jeez. I know it's been a while since I had a good shower, but... That ain't none too kind of you folks. Leads this rando person hiding behind the bar. Or the house is. Yeah, hiding behind the bar. Well, so I'm not here to announce the next class. It's not going to happen on the live stream. Why would we announce the next class on the live stream? And I don't want to speculate or lead people by not saying things to also speculate. So, no, it's not a Monster Play class that I'm aware of.
Who are you? Hello there.
There you are. I see you, sheep. Game sounds are really quiet. Okay. Well, I kind of have it double turned down, so let me turn it back up a little bit. See if that's a little better. We're always working to introduce the game to new players. Magic Lupe, it's nice to see you in chat. Actually, where am I supposed to bring that crate? Storage room inside Crossway. Let's see. Over here. I think 2023 will be a pretty exciting year for Monster Play. I mean, you've already seen a lot of the overall goals and work that we have planned. Orion's been pretty chatty about what our plans are, and they're pretty ambitious. So, I think there should be a lot to look forward to there. And I am hoping that we'll get Orion and others on in the coming months so that we can keep the hype train going. Woot woot.
You and your friends might want to keep walking, stranger. I have seen something like this before. I hope you won't use those Aberthorn too harshly. You go with Boromir and Egfrith to speak with this man. I will seek to learn more.
Okay.
Lately, some darkness has passed through the land, stirring up all manner of foul things.
Aaron Bard, you have not jumped into the nearest release, but you're wondering how we're planning to balance fiddly detail systems like LI with more word-based content for quests and stories. And those little hidden jokes seen here and there. I think we've been pretty good at doing that. And I think, although Before the Shadow doesn't really have to do with LIs, right? Because it's pre-LI, but I think we do it by tying the systems to lore, tying it to story, and having the acquisition path you go through be about the story and such as well.
Why have you come to bother me? I speak to no one. Not since
Yeah.
I speak to no one. I have not had
You're speaking now, buddy. Yeah, just saying.
you to my home. Boromir, you say? An exile? Four nights passed after the setting of the sun. I left my home to walk along the cobbled streets of Hermione.
So he was walking. While strolling, he sensed something different. A tremendous feeling of wrongness that he felt in the pit of his stomach. His eyes were drawn to a tree, and he watched, I swear to you, a deeper shadow moved out from behind the trunk, making a strange sound and whispering as it moved. It reminded me of being lost in distant woods. I must have fainted, for the next thing I remember is being shaken awake by Bledry, one of the townspeople carrying a lantern, found lying at the base of the tree. What the heck were they, dudes? Well, dude and lady, but all right. Now we need to go back to Crossway House and let Meneldir know about it. How am I liking Burglar? I like it. I don't feel like I know it very well yet. But I like the Burglar. It's been fun. Why am I not playing endgame stuff? I did a bunch of endgame stuff, really with Fate of Gundabad and beyond, and I did it for quite a while on the live stream. And since Before the Shadow came out, I started a new character on Crick Hollow, and I'm running through the Before the Shadow epic story. An hour a week on these Friday shows, and it's not an hour, it's more like, 25, 30 minutes because of all the other chat and things that happen. So it's true that the pace of this show is a little slower, and we're looking at the Before the Shadow story itself. So that is what the live stream has really been focusing on outside of interviews and things like that in recent weeks. We will be back to running higher end content as well, for sure. But for now, we're with Hergler the Burglar over on Crick Hollow, running through Book 2, Chapter 6, The Waiting Night. I am telling Meneldir of the scary things that have what been seen. And he's like, alright, but we need to stock up on stuff. Just that last... Okay.
You want the townsfolk to shelter within Crossway House tonight?
Yeah, so I'm basically telling people they need to shelter in place, and they're like, maybe not? No? No?
You want the folk of Herna to shelter within Crossway House tonight?
But this person is like, well, I felt that scary stuff, so... Hanging out at the tavern sounds like an okie dokie thing for me. I think it's up this way.
Shelter in Crossway House tonight? Preposterous! What I would not give for a moment.
That's something else.
Can you spare a moment?
Alright, let me go... What am I doing? I need to collect firewood and choice meats in Sedgemead, which is basically right outside of town here. Yeah. So let me go and do that. And firewood. So trees and boars of sorts. Is what the fine folk need. Not wolves. Oh, yeah, these guys. All right. You know, I think our world is big enough that there could be a story where the orc kind are more benevolent, but I don't think in general that that is something that you're going to see as a general trait throughout our game. But you know, we've got enough story that we can push to the edges sometimes, and so I wouldn't want to make some sort of like, oh god, we'd never do that, because you never know when we might do that. It might make perfect sense to do that in a certain context. But I think we've proven ourselves as true as we can be to Tolkien lore. Frequently enough that hopefully we've earned some trust there. Fellowship moves is something that would be interesting to take a very holistic look at someday as well. I don't know that we have a lot of community interest in Fellowship maneuvers. In some ways, that it's when you've been around long enough and had enough producers and ideas and 16 years worth of development, you're going to have things like that at one point were a thing and now are no longer a thing. And I fear Fellowship maneuvers may be in that class. But maybe not. Maybe not. I actually have to wonder why we haven't done the work to essentially rip it out sometimes. But it's also pretty harmless, and so that's probably why you don't rip it out. It's like everything was fine until we tried to get rid of it. You wouldn't want to get into a place where you're doing as much work to get rid of it as to update it, because then maybe you should update it, right? So, but if it's just enough work that neither updating it nor getting rid of it really is on the cards, then you sort of wait and go, well, maybe we could. Maybe in the future we can, so let it sit for now. X years later. But that's how it happens. That's how it happens. And I think that's the situation we find ourselves in with Fellowship maneuvers. On the old Rohan soundtrack, I don't know what the current status of our ability to use it is. I mean, I know it's in game and all, but would we want to use Rohan as a housing item knowing that it's an old kind of WB track? I don't know. I'm tempted to say no. I'm not sure what rumor you heard or what you even want me to comment about there, so I'm not going to. Sorry. So the music tracks as they sit in game are... Well, maybe I'm not wrong. Maybe I would need to double check with Bill on that. But at least I think they're OGG Vorbis files is how they actually go into the game client, as OGG Vorbis files. I know that they're open source. I know that much. But whether it's OGG Vorbis or FLAC, I'm not sure. I thought it was OGG. I can't claim to have extensive knowledge of all the Easter eggs that have been found in the game. So, in that regard, it seems likely there's probably something. But I haven't really heard of anything either, so... Am I supposed to kill these things? Is that what's going on? It's a little specific case here. Sickles, yeah, sickle flies. Okay. Additional colors for the quest tracker, since we can track 10 now. That seems like something, a quality of life thing we should be able to do at some point. Sure. Oh, I remember this one. Yeah, they need to be these red sickle flies, not the wimpier ones. All right. Man, my poor hobbit is almost over his head fighting the sickle fly. Actually, wow, we're already at 1 o'clock, huh? Okay. My, how time flies when you're having fun and doing a live stream. All right. I'm going to have to get caught up on the J-Jax community meme that's going on. I have to admit, I don't quite get it. I don't quite know what all is up with the J-Jax stuff. All right, let's see. Let me finish up on chat. Can any of our music be used in content creation? In general, yes. You're much better off not having to worry about accidental content matches if you use audio that is provided from us from Bill Champagne, rather than the old Warner Brothers stuff. Now, even that should theoretically be fine to use, but it's far more likely to get into a content match system somewhere that's going to cause you an issue. In general, using our stuff for Lotra-related content creation is perfectly fine, and I don't think anyone's really going to stop you if you use it for something else either. But please do give proper attribution and credit when you can. We're gonna, when we get closer to the point that we would be doing a level cap increase, we'll have more information about that. But it's too early to speculate about that kind of thing right now. I wouldn't even want to give a number. I'm seeing some people in chat giving a number, but I'm not giving you a number as to what we might do for a level cap increase. Even. All right, well, we actually do have quite a bit of chat this week. I really appreciate everyone being so chatty in chat. The main reason the old style legendary items still kind of drop in a few places is because they had unique cosmetics and there was community interest in us preserving them. But in general, if you are finding that you don't want them anymore, we should probably do the work to get rid of them. But they're there in a few kind of minor places still because of the expressed opportunity to get them still. But it's old stuff, and it should not be really given out as a meaningful reward in current content. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for watching Court of the Rings here on twitch.tv/LotraStream. I will be back next Friday with more. I don't really know what's on the agenda for next week's show. We'll probably talk about Bullroarer and more, assuming everything goes well there. Hope you're having fun with the Ill Omen Skirmish event. If you are into Hobnanigans, that's happening this weekend too. LI reward track later this month. Bullroarer next week. So I will see everyone soon. We've got the Tolkien Professor up, Druid's Fire on after that, and you can find the full schedule over on twitch.tv/LotraStream. Have fun, everyone. And I and Hergler will see you again soon.